What's up, internet users, and welcome to the Douay-Rheims Daily. Today is May the 9th, and we're going to be reading 2 Samuel chapters 5 and 6, Psalm 123, and I believe the first chapter of John, or the first half of the first chapter of John, verses 1 to 28. So let's get right into it. So the second book of Samuel, also known as the second book of Kings in the Douay-Rheims. Chapter 5. Then all the tribes of Israel came to David in Hebron, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh. Moreover, yesterday also and the day before, when Saul was king over us, thou wast he that did lead out and bring in Israel. And the Lord said to thee, Thou shalt feed my people Israel, and thou shalt be prince over Israel. The ancients also of Israel came to the king of Hebron, and King David made a league with them in Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David to be king over Israel. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. In Hebron he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years over all Israel and Judah. And the king and all the men that were with him went to Jerusalem to the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, and they said to David, Thou shalt not come in hither, unless thou take away the blind and the lame that say, David shall not come in hither. But David took the cattle of Sion, the same as the city of David. For David had offered that day a reward to whosoever should strike the Jebusites, and get up to the gutters of the tops of the houses, and take away the blind and the lame that hated the soul of David. Therefore it is said in the proverb, The blind and the lame shall not come into the temple. And David dwelt in the castle, and called it the city of David, and built round about from Millo and inwards. And he went on prospering and growing up, and the Lord God of hosts was with him. And Hiram the king of Tyre sent messengers to David, and cedar trees, and carpenters, and masons for walls, and they built a house for David. And David knew that the Lord had confirmed him king over Israel, and that he had exalted his kingdom over his people Israel. And David took more concubines and wives of Jerusalem, after he was come from Hebron. And there were born to David other sons also, and daughters. And these are the names of them that were born to him in Jerusalem: Samuel, and Sobab, and Nathan, and Solomon, and Jebahar, and Elisua, and Nepheg, and Japhiah, and Elisama, and Elioda, and Elipheleth. And the Philistines heard that they had anointed David to be king over Israel, and they all came to seek David. And when David heard of it, he went down to his stronghold. And the Philistines coming spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And David consulted the Lord, saying, Shall I go up to the Philistines? And wilt thou deliver them into my hand? And the Lord said to David, Go up, for I will surely deliver the Philistines into thy hand. And David came to Baal-Pharesim, and defeated them there. And he said, The Lord hath divided my enemies before me, as waters are divided. Therefore the name of the place was called Baal-Pharesim. And they left there their idols, which David and his men took away. And the Philistines came up again and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And David consulted the Lord, Shall I go up against the Philistines, and wilt thou deliver them into my hands? He answered, Go not up against them, but fetch a compass behind them, and thou shalt come upon them over against the pear trees. And when thou shalt hear the sound of one going in the tops of the pear trees, then shalt thou join battle. For then will the Lord go out before thy face to strike the army of the Philistines. And David did as the Lord had commanded him, and he smote the Philistines from Geba until thou come to Gezer. Chapter 6. Excuse me. And David again gathered together all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. And David arose and went, with all the people that were with him of the men of Judah, to fetch the ark of God, upon which the name of the Lord of hosts is invoked, who sitteth over it upon the cherubims. And they laid the ark of God upon a new cart, and took it out of the house of Abinadab, who was in Geba, and Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Amminadab, drove the new cart. And when they had taken it out of the house of Abinadab, who was in Geba, Ahio, having care of the ark of God, went before the ark. But David and all Israel played before the Lord on all manner of instruments made of wood, on harps and lutes and timbrels and cornets and cymbals. And when they came to the floor of Nacon, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, because the oxen kicked and made it lean aside. And the indignation of the Lord was enkindled against Uzzah, and he struck him for his rashness, and he died there before the ark of God. And David was grieved because the Lord had struck Uzzah, and the name of that place was called the striking of Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of the Lord that day, saying, How shall the ark of the Lord come to me? And he would not have the ark of the Lord brought into himself into the city of David, but he caused it to be carried into the house of Obed-Edom the Gethite. And the ark of the Lord abode in the house of Obed-Edom the Gethite 3 months. And the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. And it was told King David that the Lord had blessed Obed-Edom and all that he had, because the ark of God. So David went and brought away the ark of God out of the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with joy. And there were with David 7 choirs and calves for victims. And when they that carried the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed an ox and a ram. And David danced with all his might before the Lord. And David was girded with a linen ephod. And David and all the house of Israel brought the ark of the covenant of the Lord with joyful shouting and with sound of trumpet. And when the ark of the Lord was come into the city of David, Michal, the daughter of Saul, looking out through a window, saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. And they brought the ark of the Lord and set it in its place in the midst of the tabernacle, which David had pitched for it. And David offered holocausts and peace offerings before the Lord. And when he had made an end of offering holocausts and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. And he distributed to all the multitude of Israel, both men and women, to every one a cake of bread and a piece of roasted beef, and fine flour fried with oil. And all the people departed, every one to his house. And David returned to bless his own house. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, coming out to meet David, said, How glorious was the king of Israel today, uncovering himself before the handmaids of his servants, and was naked, as if one of the buffoons should be naked. And David said to Michal, Before the Lord, who chose me rather than thy father, and than all his house, and command me to be ruler over the people of the Lord in Israel, I will both play and make myself meaner than I have done, and I will be little in my own eyes, and with the handmaids of whom thou speakest, I shall appear more glorious. Therefore Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child to the day of her death. And next is Psalm 123. Nisi quia Dominus. If it had not been that the Lord was with us, let Israel now say, if it had not been that the Lord was with us, when men rose up against us, perhaps they had swallowed us up alive. When their fury was enkindled against us, perhaps the waters had swallowed us up. Our soul hath passed through a torrent. Perhaps our soul had passed through a water insupportable. Blessed be the Lord, who hath not given us to be a prey to their teeth. Our soul had been delivered as a sparrow out of the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken, and we are delivered. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. And the third and final reading is from from the Gospel according to John, verses 1 to 30. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was made nothing that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. This man came for a witness, to give testimony of the light, that all men might believe through him. He was not the light, but was to give testimony of the light. That was the true light, which enlighteneth every man that cometh into this world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him. and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, he gave them power to be made the sons of God, to them that believe in his name, who are born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word was made flesh, and dwelt among us. And we saw his glory, the glory as it were of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John beareth witness of him, and crieth out, saying, This was he of whom I spoke. He that shall come after me is preferred before me, because he was before me. And of his fullness we all have received, and grace for grace. For the law was given by Moses, grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. No man hath seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him. And this is the testimony of John, when the Jews sent from Jerusalem priests and Levites to him, to ask him, Who art thou? And he confessed, and did not deny, and he confessed, I am not the Christ. And they asked him, What then, art thou Elias? And he said, I am not. Art thou the prophet? And he answered, No. They said therefore unto him, Who art thou, that we may give an answer to them that sent us? What sayest thou of thyself? He said, I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, Make straight the way of the Lord, as said the prophet Isaiah. And they that were sent were of the Pharisees. And they asked him, and said to him, Why then dost thou baptize, if thou be not Christ, nor Elias, nor the prophet? John answered them, saying, I baptize with water, but there hath stood one in the midst of you, whom you know not. The same is he that shall come after me, who is preferred before me, the latchet of whose shoe I am not worthy to loose. These things were done in Bethania, beyond the Jordan, where John was baptizing. And that is it. I said I would read to verse 30, but actually it's verse 28. Yep, that's it. Pretty amazing stuff. So today is May the 9th. We have a new pope elected just yesterday. So Pope Leo the 14th, also known as Cardinal Prevost, American Cardinal. I think that fits in pretty well with the verse we had in the Old Testament, with David, being named the king of Israel, being anointed the king of Israel. He was previously the king of Judah for a number of years. And now we have, he is anointed the king of Israel and brought the ark in with great dancing. And of course you have his old flame, Michal, the daughter of Saul, and she's jealous, is what it is. And I didn't plan this, but it is so fitting, so appropriate that we started off this podcast with the first chapter of the Gospel according to John. It's one of the most epic gospel readings. I mean, the way St. John started off this gospel, it's so beautiful. It's so poetic. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got. I guess tune in next time.